What's up, everybody? Over the past few weeks, I've gotten quite a few requests to do a review on my 6x7 medium format film camera, the Bronica GS-1. Now, there's two main reasons for buying this camera in my eyes. First, price. If you're looking to get into the world of 6x7 film, you're probably looking at a Mamiya RB or RZ67 or a Pentax 6.7, and while the RB 6.7 is in the same kind of ballpark price-wise as this camera, the RZ 6.7 and the Pentax 6.7 are both going to be quite a bit more expensive when you're looking to buy a full kit. I got mine on Craigslist for $675, and it came with 4 lenses, the speed grip, a prism finder, a waist level finder, and 2 120 film backs. So I got quite a lot of components for a pretty reasonable price. Now, the second main reason for buying this camera is going to be the size. Although the RB 6.7 is kind of, like I mentioned, in the same ballpark price-wise, it's a much larger camera, and although I haven't gone out and shot with the RB 6.7 for a full day, I have picked one up and felt one, and compared to the GS1, it is a monster of a camera. You can throw a Optech USA camera strap on this guy and walk around for a full day with it. You can travel with it. It fits in my backpack as is with the prism finder and the speed grip on. I can throw this thing in my small camera bag and it's ready to go. I can unzip it, grab it, and get the shot. I can keep this thing in the front of my car, and it's just always there, easy to shoot with, and very efficient as well. Next, we can dive in and talk about the lenses. Mine came with 4: the 65mm f4, the 100mm f3.5, the 110mm macro f4, and then the 150mm f4 as well. I primarily have been using the 100mm f3.5 as a good all-around lens on 35mm equivalent. It's about a 50mm focal length, so it's a good sweet spot. It's a good all-around lens to just carry with you no matter what the occasion, and it also has that little bit wider aperture in case you need extra bokeh when shooting portraits or a little bit more light when shooting nighttime photography. All right, I'm going to briefly skim over the technical aspects of the camera and some of the bells and whistles that come on the body itself. So we have a mirror lockup mode, which essentially allows you to frame up your shot, lock the mirror up in place, and then trip the shutter so that you don't have any camera shake. It eliminates all micro jitters that might render onto your negative when shooting at 1/16 to maybe a 8-second shutter speed. So that's a nice feature to have. The other lever on the camera is this double exposure lever here. It's nice for multiple reasons. One, in case you want to expose a negative more than one time, it allows you to do that, but it also is nice in case you trip the shutter with the lens cap on ever. You can simply engage the double exposure lever, crank the winder, and cock the shutter, but it doesn't advance your frames at all, so you can expose that negative again and not have to waste one of your frames. Another thing that I want to mention is that the GS1 is operated via battery, so there's a little switch to turn your camera on, and that is how you fire the actual shutter. And it also takes an electromagnetic release cable if you're using it on a tripod. And this is important to note because you can't just buy a cheap $10 mechanical release cable on Amazon and screw it into the shutter button. You have to get an electromagnetic release cable and make sure your camera is in the on position in order to fire the shutter. The cable that I use is a Canon RS60E3, and they are very affordable. You can pick one up on B&H for like 20 bucks. So that is an important thing to note. All right, I want to talk about the prism and speed grip combination that I run on this camera. It's extremely nice because the prism inverts the inverted image that projects onto your ground glass. Basically, it gives you a normal looking image as you would see if you were shooting a DSLR or something like that. And the speed grip just allows for an extra level of simplicity when rotating between landscape and portrait orientation. It's perfect for run and gun photography, and it is definitely my go-to setup on this camera. Inside of the prism level finder itself is a center weighted metering system, which is extremely nice paired with the aperture priority mode that the GS1 features. So if you select the A position on your shutter dial, you'll activate aperture priority mode, and you can select whichever aperture you'd like, and then when pressing the shutter halfway down and looking inside of the prism finder, you'll get a digital reading of which shutter speed your camera is going to use to give you the correct compensation. Or if you prefer to use a completely manual mode, you can select your shutter speed, select your aperture, press the shutter halfway down, and inside the prism finder, it will show you your shutter speed that you've selected and how many stops over or under exposed you are, and then you can adjust your aperture or shutter accordingly. It's also important to note that on the back of the camera you have exposure compensation. If you are shooting in aperture priority mode, you can select your aperture, and now the camera is going to register that you want, let's say, a stop overexposed, so it'll select the correct shutter speed to give you that full stop of overexposure. Alright, so that's about all the technical aspects that I wanted to cover on the camera. I will leave you guys with some general impressions and talk about my experience a little bit. You got to remember that when you're shooting on film, you don't have any digital sensors to worry about. You don't have to worry about whether or not one sensor has different color science than the other or different megapixels. All a film camera is meant to do is project light through a lens onto your negative. And these lenses are fantastic. They're very high quality. They're very sharp. Are the Mamiya or Pentax lenses better? I really can't say. I would recommend going on to r/analog and looking at the different camera models and seeing the images that have been taken on the different camera systems. But if you're just sharing your work on social media mainly, I make the YouTube videos and I share a lot on Instagram. That's my primary outlet. So for me to try to justify slightly higher image quality on a Mamiya or Pentax system for an extremely higher price point, I don't really know if I can make the jump up when this camera delivers such great results in a very, very small footprint. I love to travel and I love to kind of do run and gun photography and shoot very quickly, and this camera allows me to do that in such a small form factor, and the Pentax and Mamiya systems just don't allow me to shoot the way that I want to shoot. So this is definitely my go-to camera when it comes to 6x7 medium format. You get great results at a good price point and in a very manageable size. And I think those three main points are what sold me on this camera and why I will continue to shoot it in the future. All right, that's been a quick overview of the Bronica GS-1. I hope it helped in your buying decision, or if you just picked one up, hopefully it helps you hit the ground running. If you have any other comments, questions, or concerns, just leave me a comment below and I will be sure to get back to you. Other than that, thank you for watching and I will catch you guys next week. Peace.